Hey everyone, welcome back. I know it's been a little while since I posted a video, but here we are. We're going to be doing some regular crackers that I'm just making off the top of my head using stuff that I have in my pantry. Now it turns out these are keto. There is no wheat in this, so it's I guess a little bit of a bonus. I'm going to start off with some almond flour and just regular old stuff. Use about a quarter a cup of almond flour straight into the mixing bowl here. Then I'm going to add some flax seeds, quarter a cup of flax seeds. You can use any seeds you want, sunflower or anything. Quarter a cup of sesame seeds, 1 teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of garlic powder. We got 2 teaspoons of rosemary. I really like rosemary in my crackers. 1 teaspoon of caraway seeds. Some ground black pepper. It's probably about a quarter of a teaspoon or so, but just go what you can. And then a quarter of a cup of coconut oil and 2 tablespoons of coconut flour. If you don't have coconut flour, of course, you can just add a little bit more of the almond flour. But, I had it lying around and I like to incorporate it a little bit. So we're just gonna mix everything together a little bit and see how well everything is absorbed into the oil. Now we'll just scrape down a little bit here. Now it will be a little bit looser than you are used to, but that's fine. You just don't want it to be overly wet and overly saturated with the oil. So we can see here, this one here has a lot of liquid still and it falls apart instantly. So what we're gonna need to do is I'm gonna add another quarter cup of almond flour just to try and sop up some of that oil that's still there. Alternatively, I should have cut back on the oil instead of quarter cup, maybe half that amount or a little bit less, but either way, we added the almond flour and we're gonna crack in 1 egg as well. And that's gonna help everything stick together as well. And increase the speed and just mix a little bit until it combines. And you'll see everything come together, especially once that egg is in there. And we'll just take a look here. So you can see it's a much better mass. And we want everything to stick together because we are gonna roll this out. And it makes it a lot easier when it doesn't fall apart. So dumping this on the counter was probably a big mistake on my part because I'm going to be moving it onto a silpat anyway. So I should have just dumped it straight on the silpat. So I just made a little bit more work for myself, but that's okay. Now I just collect it up and put it onto the silpat. What you're gonna wanna do once it's on the silpat or baking sheet, or baking paper, sorry, is get another piece and put it on top just so it doesn't stick to the rolling pin. Now we're gonna roll this out to around 1/4 to 1/8 inch thick. Basically just a regular size as a cracker, maybe a little bit thicker than you would normally see a cracker. But once it's rolled out and it's nice and even, then we're gonna be good to go to put this onto a baking sheet. So take off that top layer, grab my baking sheet and slide it right onto the baking sheet here. Now I've preheated my oven to 300 Fahrenheit, or I think it's around 150 degrees Celsius. And we're gonna put this in and let it sit for about 10 to 15 minutes in the oven. So here we are. You can see that it's done when the edges are a bit darker. Overall, it's a bit browned. And we're gonna slide that silpat right off of the baking sheet and let it cool for a minute or 2. Then I'm gonna use a pizza cutter and start cutting it into strips and squares, starting by cutting one way and then turning it and cutting in the opposite direction. And this just gives me little cracker shapes. You can cut it into any shape you want. You can have it in one big piece. You can break it with your hands, give it more artisanal look. But I find the pizza cutter works pretty well. And I'm just gonna give a little taste on one of these pieces here. So you can see they are a bit more brittle than you're used to in terms of a cracker, but it is holding together. It is really, really good. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna leave it for a few minutes just to fully cool down, and then I just move it into these simple containers here. It's a great way to store it, and that's it. That's all there is to it. It's a really quick recipe. I think maybe it takes about 20 minutes total. 30 minutes maybe, but most of that is just waiting around for it to cool. So there you have it. Perfect cracker, just using whatever you have lying around.